So physiologically, the connections of basal ganglia are best understood in terms of functional circuits or loops. While considering the circuits, it is an important to note that the corpus striatum does not have any direct connections with the spinal cord, either afferents or efferents. Also, internal segment of globus pallidus and the pars reticulata part of substantia nigra behave as a lateral and a medial part of single functional units. So these functional units we will see now. So functional units can be grouped as a primary feedback group and additional feedback group. So primary feedback group is a cortex basal ganglia cortex neuronal circuit. So you can see here cortex basal ganglia cortex neuronal circuit, and it provides the negative feedback loop to control the activity of motor cortex. In primary feedback loop, we have two type of loop. One is the caudate loop and the second one is putamen loop. Caudate loop is help in the cognitive control of motor activity and control of eye movements. And putamen loop is responsible for motor control of body movements. So this is the rough diagram of primary loop, how the afferents are going to the striatum and the efferents are coming to the motor cortex via thalamus. So the afferents from all parts of cerebral cortex to the striatum, and these are excitatory or glutamatergic fibers. So this pathway is a excitatory pathway from the cortex to the striatum. Projections of striatum to the globus pallidus and the substantia nigra. To the globus pallidus and substantia nigra, these are the GABAergic. So it is the inhibitory fibers. These are the excitatory fibers. So from globus pallidus and substantia nigra, the efferents from this is going to the thalamus. So it is going to the thalamus. Again it is the inhibitory, and from thalamus the projections are going to the supplementary cortex, and it is the excitatory one. So this is a primary circuit. So you can see here the caudate loop of the circuit. So mainly the function of this primary feedback loop or a cortex basal ganglia motor cortex circuit. So it provides a negative feedback loop to control the activity of motor cortex. So in this primary loop we will see first the caudate loop. So caudate loop or a circuit, this loop passes through the caudate part of pallidum and caudal part of substantia nigra, that is substantia nigra, pars reticulosa and the ventrolateral part of thalamus. So here you can see the fibers are coming from prefrontal cortex, premotor cortex, somatosensory areas. So all the afferents are coming to the caudate nucleus. Caudate nucleus means the part of the pallidum, that is the internal segment. So and this is the pallidum of internal segment and the putamen and the substantia nigra part, and from here the fibers will go to the thalamus, ventral anterior and the ventrolateral nuclei of the thalamus. From the thalamus it is again projected to the cortex. So this is cortex basal ganglia and again the cortex. So this circuit will provide a negative feedback loop to control the activity of motor cortex. Now you can see this the diagrammatic presentation of caudate loop. From the supplementary areas and the motor sensory areas, the afferents will come to caudate nucleus. From here it is projected to the internal segment of globus pallidus and pars reticulata of substantia nigra. Then the efferents will go to the ventrolateral and medial nucleus of the thalamus, and from thalamus it will again come to the cortex. This is the putamen loop. So, function of caudate loop is mainly the cognitive control of motor activity, that is thinking process of brain, and also plays a role in control of eye movements. Now, the putamen loop. Again in the putamen loop you can see this is the motor control. It is mainly helpful for the motor control of body movements. So, from premotor area, prefrontal area, somatosensory area, the fibers is going to the, it will go to the putamen. You can see here from the putamen, then the external segment of the globus pallidus, it will go, some fibers again it will go to substantia nigra, some fibers will go to the substantia nigra here. You can see from the putamen, globus pallidus external segment, also some fibers will go to substantia nigra. From substantia nigra the fibers will go to the subthalamus. From subthalamus, ventroanterior and lateral nucleus, again it will go to the cerebral cortex. So, this is putamen loop, and the main function of putamen loop is to control the body movements. So, again the same diagram, the cortex, putamen, then the globus pallidus, substantia nigra will go to thalamus, and from thalamus to cortex. This is the additional feedback loop. So, till now we have seen primary feedback loop. This is the additional feedback loop. So, in the primary feedback loop, the connection between the striatum and the globus pallidus is direct, but here there are two additional indirect feedback loops are there. So, this loop you can see, this is the indirect pathway of feedback loop involving substantia nigra pars compacta. So, you can see in the diagram the pars compacta part of substantia nigra project to the striatum. So, this pars compacta part of substantia nigra, it projects to the striatum through these pathways. So, there are D1 and D2 receptors are present in the striatum. So, for the D1 receptors, this substantia nigra is the excitatory, and for D2 receptors, the substantia nigra is a inhibitory. So, this is called as a nigrostrial pathway. The nigrostrial pathway utilizes dopamine as a neurotransmitter. The substantia nigra pars compacta is inhibited by striatum through the striatonigral pathway. So, this is inhibited effect the striatum through the dopamine. So, dopamine exerts as excitatory effect which acts through the D1 receptors. You can see this is the excitatory effect via D1 receptors and inhibitory effect via D2 receptors. So, dopamine, you can see here the substantia nigra will provides the balance of this excitatory and inhibitory control, and finally the striatum will give a signals to globus pallidus and substantia nigra pars reticulosa, and these parts will get inhibited the thalamus further, and then thalamus will stimulate the motor cortex. So, this additional loop is via the nigrostrial pathway. Another additional loop, it is via due to subthalamic nuclei. So, here you can see the fibers are going from the striatum to the external segment of globus pallidus. From external segment of globus pallidus, the fibers are going to the subthalamic nucleus, and both are inhibitory. So, from striatum will inhibit the external segment of globus pallidus, inhibitory influence will come to the subthalamic nucleus, and subthalamic nuclei will stimulate the pars reticulosa of substantia nigra and the internal segment of globus pallidus, and this will again send the signals to the inhibitory signals to the thalamus, and thalamus will send the signals to the motor cortex. So here this additional loop is via this subthalamic nuclei. So cortex will come to the striatum, striatum will stimulate the external segment of globus pallidus, and then the internal segment of globus pallidus via subthalamic nuclei. So this indirect pathway via subthalamic nuclei. So overall effect of this circuit is a inhibitory one, because inhibition at this site, inhibition of subthalamic nuclei, then there is a stimulation and again the inhibition of thalamus. So the combined effect of this pathway is inhibitory. So you can see here the direct pathway from substantia nigra pars compacta. So direct pathway, it is the excitatory one to the striatum through the D2, and directly it will inhibit the internal segment and substantia nigra pars reticulosa. So the fibers will come to the thalamus here, and the inhibitory output will go. The black lines is showing the inhibitory output, whereas the D2 receptors, here you can see the external segment of globus pallidus will stimulate the subthalamic nuclei. From subthalamic nuclei, the excitatory fibers is coming to the internal segment of the globus pallidus and the substantia nigra pars reticulosa, but this internal segment and substantia nigra will finally inhibit the thalamus. Now what are the functions of basal ganglia? So the first and very important function of the basal ganglia, it controls the voluntary motor activity. So basal ganglia controls the voluntary motor movements which are initiated by motor cortex. So during the lesion of basal ganglia, the controlling mechanism is lost and so movement become inaccurate. So role of basal ganglia in control of voluntary motor activity includes cognitive control of motor activity, that is the thinking process, then the timing and scaling of intensity of movements, and the subconscious execution of some movements. So cognitive control of motor activity. Physiological studies have shown that the neural discharge in basal ganglia like cerebellum begins well before the movement begins. So therefore the basal ganglia like cerebellum are involved in planning and programming of the movements. So in the cognitive function, here the importance is of planning and programming of the movement. Most of the motor actions occur as a consequences of thoughts generated in the mind. This process is known as cognitive control of motor activity. So what is the pathway here? The planning and programming of the movements. The pathway, the cognitive control of motor activity is executed by the basal ganglia through the feedback loop. So cortex, idea is generated, the fibers afferents will go to basal ganglia, from basal ganglia to the motor cortex. Also the fibers will come from cerebellum, and from motor cortex the signals will send to muscle movements. The second function is the timing and scaling of the intensity of movements. So two important capabilities of the brain in controlling the movements, that is the timing of the movement, how rapidly the movement should be performed, and scaling of the intensity movements means how large the movement should be. So in higher animals, the basal ganglia acts as a important coordinating center for extrapyramidal systems. So in the absence of basal ganglia, the timing and the scaling function becomes very poor. Also basal ganglia subconsciously execute the some movements. So during the performance of trained motor activities, so for example skilled activities, Examples of movements executed subconsciously at the level of basal ganglia are swinging of arm while walking, or crude movements of facial expression that accompany emotions, or a movement of limbs while swimming. So, in all these activities, the swinging of the arm while walking, or the facial expressions during emotions, or movement of the arms during the swimming. So, all these are the actions which are executed subconsciously. So, you can give one more example, that is control of clutch and brake while driving. So, initially the constant attention you have to give to learn the driving, but once you learnt it properly, and you can carry out this action as a subconsciously by the basal ganglion as they become routine. So, by subconscious control of activities, the basal ganglia relieve the cortex from the routine act, so that cortex can be free to plan its action. So, pathway for this is again the putamen feedback circuit is connected with the control of subconscious execution of some movements during the performance of trained motor activities. Basal ganglia also help in the control of reflex muscular activity. So, basal ganglia exert inhibitory effect on the spinal reflexes and regulate the activity of muscles which maintain posture. Visual and labyrinthian reflexes are important in maintenance of posture, that we will see in the next series. The coordination and the integration of impulses for these activities depend upon basal ganglia. It also helps in the control of muscle tone. So, muscle spindles and the gamma motor neuron of spinal cord, which are responsible for the maintenance of tone of the muscle, are controlled by basal ganglia, especially by the substantia nigra. So, pathway includes the projection from cortical inhibitory areas, from the striatum to pallidum, from pallidum to substantia nigra and to the reticular formation, and finally on the spinal cord. So, in the lesion of basal ganglion, the muscle tone is increased and that lead to the rigidity is called as lead pipe rigidity. It is the characteristics of features of Parkinson's disease. Also, the basal ganglia is having the role of arousal mechanism. So, globus pallidus and the red nucleus are involved in arousal mechanism because of their connections with reticular formation. So, extensive lesion in globus pallidus associated with drowsiness leading to sleep. Now, we will see the applied aspect of basal ganglia, that is the Parkinson's disease. So, Parkinson's disease is also called as a paralysis agitans or shaking palsy and was first described by James Parkinson in 1817. So, what are the causes of the Parkinson's disease? So, Parkinson's disease occurs in elderly people due to the idiopathic degeneration of nigrostrial system of dopaminergic neurons. So, there is a steady loss of dopamine and the dopamine receptor with the age in the basal ganglia in normal individuals. Secondary causes are viral encephalitis, or you may get the Parkinson's in cerebral arteriosclerosis, or in some complications of certain drugs, that is phenothiazine, which blocks the dopamine D2 receptors. And also experimentally Parkinsonism can be produced by acutely injecting the drug, that is methylphenyl tetrahydropyridine. So, what is the pathophysiology of the Parkinson's disease? So, Parkinson's disease you will get whenever there is an imbalance between excitation and the inhibition in the basal ganglia created by the loss of dopaminergic inhibition of the putamen. So, the resulting increase in inhibitory output to the external segment of globus pallidus and decreases the inhibitory output from the subthalamic nuclei, and this increases excitatory output from this nucleus to the internal segment of globus pallidus. This in turn increases the inhibitory output from the segment to the thalamus, causing the reduction in the excitatory drive to cerebral cortex. So, this is the picture in the normal person from the cortex. So, from the cortex the the, the fibers are going to the striatum, which are the excitatory one. So, from this striatum, the pars compacta substantia nigra is giving the excitatory and the inhibitory output. So, there is a balance with this dopamine receptors, and this putamen will give the inhibitory signals to the external segment of globus pallidus. Via subthalamic nuclei, it is stimulated the internal segment of globus pallidus, and from internal segments, the fibers will go to the thalamus. So, it is the slight inhibitory, and finally it will stimulate the cortex. So, what happens in the Parkinson's disease? You see here. So, from the cortex, the excitatory segments will go to the putamen. From the putamen, you can see the pars compacta substantia nigra. So, there is a degeneration of the dopaminergic fibers and the receptors. So, the balance is get hampered here. So, there is a more inhibition of the external part of globus pallidus. So, because of more inhibition of external part of globus pallidus, the subthalamic nuclei is get more inhibited. So, more inhibited means here this internal part of globus pallidus is more excited. So, because of more excitation of internal segment of globus pallidus, so the thalamus will get more and more inhibited. So, here is the you can see the double negative sign. So, more inhibition of the thalamus from internal segment of globus pallidus. So, because of the more inhibition, the thalamus will not excite the cortex much more, and you will get the different symptoms of the Parkinson's like akinesia or a hypokinetic features because of decrease in the excitation of cortical areas. Also, internal segment of globus pallidus will give a inhibitory segment to the pedunculopontine nucleus. So, that is also much more increased, and it will inhibits the again the spinal cord. So, we will get the hypokinetic features because of Parkinson's disease. So, in this diagram you can see, so this is the you can see this is the cortex. So, cortex is excitatory via glutamatergic fibers to the putamen. The pars compacta substantia nigra via nigrostrial pathways will maintain the balance in the putamen. From the putamen via indirect pathways via external segment of globus pallidus and via subthalamic nucleus. So, there is inhibitory pathway from subthalamic nucleus to the substantia nigra and the globus pallidus. All these are the excitatory pathways. You can see the purple lines. So, from subthalamic nuclei to all the regions, it is excitatory one. But from the globus pallidus and the substantia nigra, again it is going to the inhibitory to the thalamus, and thalamus will again finally excitatory to cortex like this via the glutaminergic pathways. Now, what are the clinical features of Parkinson's disease? So, you will get the both type of features, that is hypokinetic and the hyperkinetic. So, hypokinetic features, the patient is unable to initiate the voluntary movements. There is a delayed motor initiative, slow performance of voluntary movements, mask like facial expression, absent normal associated movements. You will get the shuffling or a fascinant gait, in which patient is bent forward and walk quickly with short steps as if trying to catch up the center of gravity or preventing himself from pulling. Also, there is a retropulsion. So, when the walking patient is suddenly pulled back, he begins to walk backward and is unable to stop. Parkinson's patient will develop the rigidity, and it is due to the increased discharge of gamma efferents supplying the muscle spindles causes the rigidity. So, the characteristic of rigidity in the Parkinson's disease. So the tone is increased in both protagonist and antagonist muscle, mainly large proximal group of muscle of the limb affected, that is biceps and the knee flexors. There occurs uniform resistance to flexion and giving a feeling of lead pipe type of rigidity. Also sometimes it will give a series of catches during the passive motion like a cogwheel type of rigidity. Due to the rigidity, posture becomes that in the flexion attitude in which back is flexed, arms are abducted and the flexed and the knees are bent. So in advanced cases, rigidity may increase to such an extent that the statue-like appearance is produced with complete absence of movements. This rigidity of the Parkinson's is differ from that of a pyramidal tract rigidity, that is spasticity. So what is the cause of rigidity here? The increased discharge of gamma efferent supplying the muscles causes the rigidity. So neural mechanism, that is the influence of both excitatory, that is cholinergic fibers, and inhibitory dopaminergic fibers in the striatum. So under the normal consistence there exists a balance between the excitatory and the inhibitory influence. But in a patient in Parkinson's disease, lack of dopaminergic activity due to the degeneration of neuron in the substantia nigra shifts the balance towards excitatory cholinergic fibers. As a result, the hyperkinetic features of Parkinson's will get. So what is the difference in the spasticity and the rigidity? So spasticity mainly occurs in the pyramidal tract region, whereas the rigidity occurs in the basal ganglion and extrapyramidal tract of region. Muscles involved in the spasticity is only one group of muscle, whereas the rigidity both the group of muscles are involved, agonist and antagonist, and the general attitude of the flexion of the limbs and the trunk. The hypertonia in the spasticity, the Klasnipe type of hypertonia you will get. The passive flexion, initially there is a marked resistance, but then there is a sudden completion of the movements without much resistance. That is the Klasnipe type of hypertonia. Whereas in the Parkinson's disease, you will get the lead pipe type of rigidity or cogwheel type of rigidity. The other features of Parkinson's is a tremors. So tremor is involuntary rhythmic oscillatory movements of the distal part of limbs and the head is seen in the Parkinson's disease. The tremors are present at rest. So resting tremor is the hallmark of Parkinson's disease, but it disappears during the activity. So it is called as a resting tremors or static tremors. So frequency of tremors ranges from 4 to 6 times per second, and it is frequently seen as a free rolling movement of the hand, that is rhythmic contraction of thumb over the first two fingers. Tremors are suppressed during the sleep and exaggerated by stress and excitement. The tremors are also observed as a rhythmic movement of pronation and supination in the fingers, hands, lips or a tongue. What is the neural mechanism behind this? The tremor is seen occurs due to the pacemaker activity in the nucleus ventralis intermedius of the thalamus. So thalamic neurons exhibits an intrinsic autorhythmicity and probably it get unmasked due to increase in the inhibitory input from the pallidum. And thus the thalamic pacemaker activity induce the oscillation in the long loop reflex pathway which originate from the muscle spindles. So in the diagram you can see this is the short stepped gait or a fastinate gait or shuffling gait. There is a flexion of the extremities at the knee joint, at the back, also the flexion at the elbow joint. You can see the pill rolling movements, and these are the resting tremors you will get. Now what is the treatment of the Parkinson's? So there is a deficiency of dopamine due to destruction of nigrostrial pathway. So you have to use the L-DOPA is used in the treatment of Parkinson's disease. It can cross the blood-brain barrier and reach the brain tissue where it is concentrated into dopamine and thus compensate its deficiency. So drug dopamine is not used because it cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. So along with L-DOPA, carbidopa is also used. It prevents the conversion of L-DOPA into dopamine in the liver. So the dopamine will be available at the brain side because carbidopa cannot cross the blood-brain barrier, and thus the L-dopa is converted into dopamine. L-dopa in low doses diminishes the rigidity, and in high doses it reduces the tremors. Also, the surgical destruction of globus pallidus or a ventrolateral nucleus of thalamus can also decrease the symptoms of Parkinson's disease by restoring the output balance towards normal. So, there are the other involuntary movements we will get with the disease. So, we may get the chorea type of movements, it is a rapid jerky movements due to damage to caudate nucleus, or you may get the athetosis, it is a slow rhythmic twisting worm like confluent breathing movements of the extremities, it is due to the damage of putamen. Huntington's chorea, it is autosomal dominant disease is there. This occurs due to damage to GABAergic and the cholinergic neurons of striatum. The loss of GABAergic pathway to the external pallidum release the inhibition, permitting the hyperkinetic features of the disease. The characteristic features of Huntington's is the jerky trajectory of a hand when reaching to the touch, hyperkinetic piriform movements, speech becomes slurred and then incomprehensible, and there a progressive loss of memory. It is gradually progressive disease with no effective treatment, which ultimately lead to death. Then the hemibalismus, it is due to the damage of subthalamic nuclei. The characteristic features of this hemibalismus is a spontaneous attack of flail-like intense and a violent movement affecting whole of the opposite half of the body. The other disease is Wilson's disease. It is due to the copper content of substantia nigra is very high. So, the copper is deposited in the brain. Liver involved is in the form of cirrhosis. Then the kernicterus is referred to damage of globus pallidus caused by indirect bilirubin which crosses the blood-brain barrier. It occurs in the hemolytic diseases of the newborn which results due to Rh antibodies. So, in this condition death is very common and it may shows the rigidity, chorea, atherotry and the mental deficiency. This is all about basal ganglia.